So as I said, today is an important day as it provides PRONI with an opportunity to meet and thank those private depositors who have donated their documents to PRONI over the last 12 months. It's also an opportunity to catch up with the individuals and organisations who advocate on PRONI's behalf and who work in partnership with our private records team. And finally, it is also an opportunity to meet with those individuals who have contacted the private records team with a view to depositing collections with PRONI in the future. So it's an opportunity to hear a little bit more about what we do as an organisation and the service that we provide. So over the last year, a total of 95 new collections were deposited with PRONI by private depositors. These new archives range in size from a single photograph to a collection of 78 boxes of papers relating to the Healing Through Remembering initiative. So from a single item right up to 78 boxes of records. These new collections include digital material. So for example, over 3,000 digitized copies of photographs taken by Belfast-based photographer Albert E. McAlpine. And the collections also reflect the diverse communities here in Northern Ireland and the extraordinary individuals that make up our shared society. PRONI is tasked with the important mission of identifying, preserving and promoting public access to Northern Ireland's archival heritage. Delivering this mission is possible because of your public spiritedness and generosity of depositors both this year and in previous years. I'm happy to have this opportunity to say a sincere thank you. So thank you to everyone in the room for depositing your papers with PRONI so that they can be preserved and made publicly available to inform, educate and inspire people both now and in the future. And I also would like to acknowledge and thank our private records team for their dedication, their enthusiasm, their commitment to working with depositors, for bringing in records, cataloguing them and making them available. And just in terms of today's event, we also have, I just want to thank and acknowledge Gavin and Grace and Sarah Cathcart and Sarah Wilkinson, who have helped organise and are here to be involved and participate in today's event as well. I'm now just going to hand over to my colleague Lorraine Burke, who leads in our private records team. She's going to provide an overview of some of the records that have been deposited over the last year and tell you about some of the fascinating stories that are contained within them that she has uncovered from the records. Over to you, Lorraine. Thank you.
David. Good afternoon, everybody. There's some seats here at the front if people want to make themselves a bit more comfortable. It's lovely to look across the room today and to see so many people we have met over the course of the last year who have deposited their records with PRONI. It's also very, very nice to share this day with people we have worked in partnership with and people who have supported us in so many ways over the last year. So thank you all for coming. As David mentioned, we had a staggering 95 new collections that transferred into PRONI's care over the last year. So unfortunately, I can't talk about all of them today, but I do want to highlight the range and diversity of these records by just outlining a sample. So here we go. So let's start off with a look at photographic collections. Belfast-born photographer Albert McAlpine documented Belfast streets, particularly those in the east of the city. Most of the photographs he took date to the 1980s and 1990s. They record recognizable landmarks and also streetscapes that have completely been transformed. The photograph on the left there of Jones Corner Shop reminds us of a time when corner shops were such a feature of Belfast streets. The photograph on the right reminds us of more enlightened time when neighbourhoods had their own cinemas, such as the Ambassador on the Craiga Road here, which then turned into Wise Buys and is now waiting a new home. For the eagle-eyed among you, this photograph dates from 1962, and the movie that was showing at the time was Breakfast at Tiffany's. Lovely. So Philip McAlpine, who is here today, not only deposited his father's collection of 3,000 colour 35mm slides, he also deposited a digitized copy of each of them and a comprehensive index listing the details, the date and details of each photograph within them. So Philip and Deirdre, the significant work that they undertook has made this collection so much more accessible to the public. Moving on then to an earlier collection, and I would like to thank Brian Turner for safeguarding and depositing over 500 photographic negatives dating from the 1930s, taken by William Robb with PRONI. The nitrate negatives that these photographs were on were deteriorating. The images within them were at risk. So my colleague Rebecca organised to have the collection digitised by specialists, and the images are preserved in PRONI now. The collection, as you can see here, just from this small sample, is of great local interest, documenting villages and towns and landscapes. And William Robb recorded the date and the location and details of each photograph within an envelope for each image, which is wonderful. So you see then the level of detail that we're able to add to our catalogue. The lovely scene of Cookstown, County Tyrone from 1953. And this is one of my favourites, the fireworks over a moorhead in Portrush dating from 1937. William Robb, who took the photographs, was well known as a railway enthusiast, but strangely enough, railways don't feature in the collection at all, but boats big and small do. So we see the ship, Dunvegan Castle, after its launch nearby here in Harland and Wolff's East Yard in 1936, and a photograph then of shipping boats, and within you can actually see the people within the boats, and shipping boats coming into Portavogie Harbour 1932. Moving on then, Bobby Lamb was born in Troopersvale, County Antrim in 1912. He married Minnie Kane of Belfast in April 1935. He enlisted in the Royal Air Force in 1938 as a Class F reservist, serving with number 208 Squadron during the Second World War. We can see Bobby there on the wing of the plane with some of his RAF colleagues. He's on the far right, yes, the far right of the wing. And during his time in the RAF, he assembled a large collection of photographs, both taken by him and of him. These photographs offer a personal insight into the lived experience of a soldier during the North African and Italian campaign during the Second World War. Many of the photographs were captioned, which was wonderful, so our colleague Sarah Cathcart used this information as part of the catalogue descriptions for each photograph in the collection. So we know that the soldiers there outside the air raid shelter in the desert, on the image on the top, they were sitting at Sidi Aziz airfield in the eastern desert of Libya. And we know the city in the bottom image there was the destroyed city of Monte Cassino in Italy. So a very, very rich level of detail contained within the photographs and added to the catalogue. I'm very happy to say that Bobby survived the war and returned home, where he fulfilled a lifetime promise to his brother. They opened a barber shop together in Whitehead, County Antrim. So many thanks to Carol Lamb and her daughter Claire, who's here today. Thank you for allowing PRONI to digitise this collection and to make it available to the public. This collection was just one of a number that were deposited on a temporary basis as part of PRONI's first ever collection day, which was organised by our colleagues Sarah and Grace. And Sarah and Grace have organised a little display in the display cabinets in the main atrium there under the stairs of highlights or selected images from those collections. So before you go, do take the time to have a look at them. As David said, sometimes it might just be a single photograph that transfers to PRONI, but no less valuable for all that. So bringing us right up to more recent times, we have a photograph of the restoration of devolved government at Stormont on the 8th of May 2007. And here we can see the back of Ian Paisley addressing the assembled guests on that historic day. There's a couple of seats at the front here. If you want to come up, there's a couple of seats. Yeah. So I would like to thank Aidan Cassidy, who deposited this photograph with us in memory of John Cassidy. Moving on then, visitors to PRONI, they may love a photographic collection, but dare I say it, sometimes they love a good map even more. So Ken Mawhinney deposited 3 maps of the townland of Kilkenny-Murray, County Down with us, including this beautiful map dating from 1806, which is so rich in name detail, names of tenants within the map. So let's now have a look at some of the papers deposited by organisations and charities during the year. Cara Friend was established in October 1974 by a group of volunteers who realised the acute need for a befriending and support organisation for members of the LGBTQIA+ community in Northern Ireland. And last year, Cara Friend celebrated its 50th anniversary, so the work they are doing is still going strong. For several years, Cara Friend and PRONI have co-hosted an intern from the MA in Public History at Queen's University, Belfast, and this year we were very fortunate to have Aoife Harvey with us as our intern. So Aoife organised additional material at the Cara Friend office before transferring it to PRONI and cataloguing it. And Aoife catalogued a substantial amount of new material to add to the existing Cara Friend archive here. But at the heart of that archive are the first contact letters dating from 1975 that individuals sent to Cara Friend seeking help, advice and support. And these letters highlight the significant role that Cara Friend played in those individuals' lives. So here is a recent letter that has come into the collection where a writer thanks Cara Friend for responding to an earlier letter and writes again to thank them for reaching out the hand of friendship, and says the past 6 months have been very difficult for me, and ends with, I just wanted to say thank you again for your support and to let you know that some stories have happy endings. And we can see the envelope there on the right. I don't know if you can make it out, but it came all the way from Belarus. So it just shows the reach and impact that Cara Friend has had over the years. Healing Through Remembering is a voluntary cross-community initiative whose purpose is to facilitate and inform broader debate about dealing with the legacy of the conflict in Northern Ireland. It uses education, memorialization, and community engagement to address the legacy of conflict to help promote reconciliation both locally and internationally. And I would like to thank Kate Turner, the Director of Healing Through Remembering, for organising and transferring this deposit, this archive to PRONI's care. Collecting and preserving testimonies of people who were impacted by the conflict is an area of work that Healing Through Remembering has highlighted as being central to promoting reconciliation. The value of this work is evident in Ulster Human Rights Watch's Legacy of the Past record. Last year, an additional 4 family reports and 3 filmed oral history interviews addressing the profound impact that the conflict had on individuals and families were deposited with PRONI. So I would like to sincerely thank those participants who shared their testimonies and agreed to deposit them with PRONI, including Joe Morrison, Linda Van Coolenberg, and William Martin. Many, many thanks. Let's move on now and look at business records. Apologies, there was a little bit of a technical glitch and lots of drama before people came in. So the image there of my colleagues Liam, Avril and Rebecca has gone a little bit askew. But many, many thanks to Fergus Harron for sorting the extensive Kennedy Fitzgerald archive and facilitating numerous visits from the private records team to appraise plans and drawings from that very important architectural collection. This archive spans over 6 decades of design excellence. The earlier partnership was responsible for several important educational designs in the 1960s and 1970s, including Victoria College in Belfast, Portadown Technical College, and the Model School in Enniskillen. In recent decades, Kennedy Fitzgerald delivered a number of high-profile contemporary projects, and pictured here are drawings submitted as part of a successful bid to design a new church building for St. Bridget's Parish Church in Derryvolgie Avenue in Belfast. This award-winning building was completed in 1994, and anyone who's been inside will know what a very, very special space it is. Believe it or not, last year, we were also very fortunate to receive the papers of another significant architectural practice, that of Gordon McKnight partnership. So this practice was established in the 1950s by the distinguished architect and artist Gordon Kempson McKnight. As an architect, Gordon specialised in church work. Among his best known designs are Orangefield Presbyterian Church, the Chapel of Unity within Methodist College, and Martyrs Memorial Free Presbyterian Church on the Ravenhill Road. He also led the redevelopment of assembly buildings, and you can see some of his drawings there. Gordon McKnight was very interested in recording his work and life through the medium of film, and several of his Super 8 films are digitised and available through Northern Ireland Screen's digital film archive. Marcus Patton, another of PRONI's depositors, has highlighted the significance of these films. And in one of them, Gordon records the work behind designing a new church in the Beaver Estate in Belfast. I would highly recommend anyone with an interest in architecture or church history having a look. So in it, Gordon takes us through the different stages of coming up with the concept and design for a new church building. He takes us through the different steps in the evolution. We're with them all the way. He meets the church committee and they go, "It doesn't look like a church." And he's back to the drawing board. But it's a wonderful, wonderful film. Do check it out on the Digital Film Archive. Barbara Workman, who is with us today, deposited papers relating to Hugh J. Scott and Company Limited. This electrical engineering firm and motor manufacturer located on the Ravenhill Road was in operation for over 100 years before it closed in 2004. We hope, with the help from Barbara and others, to be able to identify some of the people and products within the many, many photographs within this collection. So moving on then from business papers to family papers, all the way from Ontario, Angela Bennett sent us a collection of family papers relating to Alfred Stokes and his wife Hazel, who emigrated from Belfast to Ontario. This collection, catalogued by my colleague Niamh, includes a lovely photograph album depicting a Girl Guide jamboree, possibly held at Wilmont House, Dunmurry. Niamh has been in touch with the Ulster Girl Guide Association to let them know about this album, and it would be great to find more information about some of the people featured within it. I would also like to thank John Clerkin, who is here with us today and who deposited family scrapbooks and various papers with us, including a generous deposit of 5 volumes of the collected works of Porrick Pierce. We always love a love story in private records, and next we have the most romantic document that was deposited with us over the last year. From 1948 until 1951, Peter Hughes and Irene Brownlee kept a scrapbook. Within it, they kept theatre programmes, cinema programmes, menu cards, ticket stubs, And it's a lovely, lovely record of leisure activities in and around Belfast from that period. But it's also a love story, because the scrapbook records all the dates that they went on. And it's not a thin scrapbook, it's a very, very thick scrapbook. And it includes, on the right there, printed material, notes and hand-drawn sketches of a summer's day in Bangor in 1950. A programme for the Grand Opera House with a note underneath reading, "We had money tonight, but you had no ice cream." And a programme for the Majestic Cinema, which says underneath it, "Once upon a time, not so very long ago, there was a cinema called the Majestic. And in the back row of the back circle, there were 2 seats. I bet those 2 seats could tell some tales." So what a lovely document. So Peter and Irene met at Fane Street School Amateur Dramatic Group in their teens. They married in 1952 and were married for 66 years. So I would like to thank their children for depositing this scrapbook with us, and to welcome their son Michael Hughes, who's here with us today. My colleague Saul catalogued a small collection of letters written by James Knox, formerly of Ballygown, County Antrim, who emigrated to Nebraska in 1842. These letters, like with so many immigrant letters, are very evocative, talking about farming life, the weather, wider political events, and sharing and asking for news of back home. And in this letter, dated the 6th of November, 1886, he writes about a visit from his son, Douglas. He hasn't seen him for 22 years. And he says, "Douglas was 3 days and 2 nights coming here. So you see how steam power has brought distant places nearer." Isn't that lovely? Yeah. So the urge to bring distant places nearer can also be seen in our next collection that I want to highlight, the Travel Journal of Claire Hamilton from New South Wales. So on the 3rd of September 1961, Claire set off on the first leg of an epic adventure. She set off from ship in Melbourne. My colleague Avril tells me that the ship she set off on was built by Harland and Wolff. So there's the local connection from the get-go. She worked in London, raising money before setting off with friends to hitchhike across Europe, Turkey, Iran, Pakistan, and back again. It's a lovely travel journal. It's an old one that some of us will be familiar with pages at the front to write the notes of your traveller's checks and where you cash them. As you can see, there's ticket stubs and details of all her travels included, including this one, when Claire was in East Berlin, found East Berlin to be just a mass of bombed out buildings, travelled around, met up with 5 students there, talked to them about life under communism, and ended with the observation, "I think I will stick with the capitalists." We left the boys at the road to the barrier at 7 p.m. and returned to West Berlin and life. 15th of June, 1962. So at a later stage, Claire met her husband, Barry, in Montreal. His job then took him to Bangor, County Down, where they settled down and raised a family. And I would like to thank our colleague, Stephen Scarth, for allowing us to digitise his mother's travel journal and making it available to the public. So let's stay with Bangor for now and look at one in a number of amazing clubs, societies and associations that deposited their records with us last year. Starting off with the Bangor Amateur Operatic Society Papers, formed in 1919. This society fostered the talent of many notable names in both amateur and professional opera and musical theatre. The society performed at numerous venues before finding a building of their own in Bangor and converting it into what was called the Little Theatre. This archive contains a wealth of photographs and printed materials, including programs and musical scores. You can see from the sample here, many of the photographs are captioned with all the names of the individuals who featured within the production. So here we have the cast and musical director of HMS Pinafore from 1920 and the Yeoman of the Guard from 1923. And just look at the costumes there. You know, this was no ordinary amateur endeavor. Also pictured is a program for the Desert Song. This was performed at the Tonic Cinema in Bangor in 1944 with so much success that they were invited to perform it at the Hippodrome in Belfast. So my colleague Dara has catalogued this collection, making sure that any names that feature within it are included within the catalogue descriptions, so that all this rich information will be discoverable through the PRONI catalogue. The Society sadly finally retired in 2018, and sincere thanks to Cathy Moore for gathering together documents from various people's attics and basements and spare rooms, organising it and transferring the collection to PRONI. Oops. Another two amazing societies, the Irish Astronomical Association, which is still going strong and which is well known for its wonderful outreach activities, including nighttime sky events, deposited their papers with us. Also, and I hadn't heard of this society, but the Northern Ireland Polar Club, which was formed in 1968 with the aim of fostering interest in the Antarctic and the Arctic and giving advice to people who propose to go out to the polar regions on expeditions. The Society was active for many years and delivered extramural classes at Queen's University Belfast. So thanks to John Finlay, who's pictured on the right beside that map of Greenland, for depositing the Society's papers with us. The significant role local historical societies perform in relation to preserving and promoting our cultural heritage is exemplified by the Edenderry Cultural and Historical Society and their archive, which they have deposited with us. Among its achievements, the Society was responsible for bringing together and preserving archive material relating to a number of important businesses in Portadown, including Wade Pottery. Wade Pottery was an English business and expanded into Northern Ireland, operating from an old linen mill on Watson Street, Portadown, and operating as Wade Ulster Limited. At its peak, this factory employed over 400 people. So my colleague Avril and I were dazzled by Cardwell McClure, who took us through all the records that the Society had gathered together and created themselves relating to Wade. Backstamps of every single ceramic vessel that the pottery produced, oral history interviews of over 90 members of staff, minutes, correspondence, hand-drawn designs, which would have ended up on the skip if it weren't for the efforts of the Society. The Society even undertook their own dig of the former site of the factory and recovered a number of ceramic pieces. And Cardwell, like someone who knows to keep the best wine for last, as he was talking to Avril and I, he pulled out one final folder. And he told us about how Wade Ulster had produced high-strength, heat-resistant alumina ceramics. And these were exported around the world for use in pharmaceutical, electronic, aerospace, and medical industries. And apparently, so the story goes, heat-resistant tiles from Wade Ulster were even used in one of the Apollo space missions. So there we go. So the papers relating to Wade have now been catalogued by my colleague Leanna, who was delighted to find out that, do you see those little ceramic leprechauns there at the front? That the little ceramic leprechauns she had played with as a child and which she still has were produced by Wade Ulster. So that was lovely. We were delighted last year to receive the records of the Ballysala branch of the Women's Institute. We also received additional records of Dundonald Women's Institute, and I think later on this week, we look forward to receiving the records of Hollywood and Scrabo Women's Institute. Irene McNair, president of Ballysala Women's Institute, and pictured in the middle of that photograph there, reflected on the importance of preserving the records of their branch. And her observations highlight the important role organisations like the Women's Institute played in some women's life at this time. She noted that so much has changed over the years from the mainly rural membership in the early days to now welcoming women from all walks of life. However, the ethos of the organisation applies as much now as it did back in 1951, to provide a safe space for women to connect, learn and empower themselves through shared experiences and activities. And finally, I want to finish up by playing a short trailer from a film made as part of the Women in Heritage project. This community filmmaking initiative celebrates local heritage and the women who work to protect and share it. The project is led by Dr. Laura Aguiar from Ulster University, Brona McAtasney from Northern Ireland Screen, and Emma McAleer from the Rural Community Network, and also our colleague Lindsay Gillespie from PRONI. The trailer is from a film that looks at the work of local historian Una Walsh. Thanks very much to Brona for sharing the clip with us. An oral history interview conducted by Lindsay with Una will be preserved and made available at PRONI. And screenings of the film, the trailer is viewable on the Digital Film Archive, and screenings of the film can be requested through Northern Ireland Screen. And I'll just play that short clip now.
Where the grass is fresh and green, where the air is pure and clean, where the gentle rivers kiss the mountain streams. Although I've travelled,
I absolutely love history, and everything, I hope, everything I do is about joining the dots, about giving history as a set of rolling stories where one story shapes you into the next story, where one goes up and the other comes down, but where it is a continuous set of stories that is part of everyone's life that was living at that time. And I think if we use that model, then we give a more honest, direct, and inclusive way of telling our history. I don't own South Armagh, and when I'm no longer alive, South Armagh will still be here. We are only the inheritors of a piece of our time, and I think, taking it back to that old Celtic thing, our job is to protect our area while we're alive, but it's also to have enough confidence in your young people to hand it on to them.
Where the grass is fresh and green, where the air is pure and clean, where the gentle rivers kiss the mountain stream.
We're now going to move into the final section of this Depositors Day event, and it's around Archives Revealed, the Now We're Talking project. As I've already said, much of the work of the private records team is underpinned by collaboration and partnerships, and we've had a look at the work with NI Screen and UTV. And at last year's Depositors Day event, we highlighted the Now We're Talking cataloguing and engagement project. The project focuses on the archives of the folklorist, writer and broadcaster Michael J. Murphy, and the writer and broadcaster Sam Hannah-Bell. And the project is funded by an Archives Revealed consortium grant from the UK National Archives. It's been led by PRONI and the Nerve Centre. This is Niall Kerr from the Nerve Centre. And it's supported and enriched by a wider arc of partners. These include the families of Michael J. Murphy and Sam Hannah Bell, who deposited the archives in PRONI. Cuivnew, a cultural community group from Mullockbang, County Armagh, the National Folklore Collection at University College Dublin, and BBC Northern Ireland and Northern Ireland Screen. And in the first few months of the project, Sean Hayes, the project archivist, together with Avril Laughlin and Sam Turtle, catalogued over 1,200 items and digitised over 3,000 pages from the Michael J. Murphy archive. And in January of 2026, the cataloguing focus of the project then turned to Sam Hannah Bell's archive. For those of you who are staying for the behind-the-scenes tour, you'll have the opportunities to see a selection of documents from these two archives in PRONI's reading room up on the first floor. And if you do have time, I would really recommend that you do stay for the behind-the-scenes tour and go up and visit the reading room and take an opportunity to find out a little bit more about PRONI. A key objective of the Now We're Talking project is to encourage new audiences to engage with these two archives and learn more about the legacy of both Michael J. Murphy and Sam Hannah Bell. And the Nerve Centre have already delivered two characteristically imaginative and dynamic engagement programmes, and I'm delighted to welcome Niall from the Nerve Centre to tell us a little bit more. Hand over to you, Niall.
David, thank you very much, and Lorraine, thank you too for the invite today. So David's given a really helpful background to the project, and I'm conscious that lunch is being served very soon as well. So I'm going to take a quick whistle-stop tour through some of the achievements of this project over the last few months. David has mentioned some of the work that's gone on at PRONI, specifically around obviously these two men and the archives that exist here. Sam Hannah Bell on the left, and Michael J. Murphy on the right. Two real enigmas in terms of their collections and their work and everything that they did, both with each other, separately, and everything in between for their communities and beyond. And their work is really fascinating. Hence why we were successful in getting the only consortium grant in the whole of the UK to do this work. So this, out of all the projects that applied to the Archives Revealed project, this was the only project that was successful in terms of the scale of funding. So a lot of work has gone on at PRONI to catalogue, to digitise, and to get this content ready so that it can be seen and viewed by as many people as possible. Primarily led by Lorraine and Sean and the rest of the team there. And what we wanted to do through this whole project was to make sure that the content, while it's being catalogued and while it's been added to the archive and made accessible, that it can be pushed out to the widest possible audience. Because the great thing about both these two archives and sets of collections is that the work resonates down through the decades and has so much resonance and symbolism and relevance to today. So one of the things we're helping to do through the project is to write blog entries and to create short video content that can be seen by new audiences. So this gets extended out and pushed to the widest possible range of people. So these are all available to view on the Nerve Centre's website, all written by Sean about that kind of cataloguing and archiving process. And then where we come into the play is, so we're from the Nerve Centre. I should say I'm here to represent my colleague Victoria Capola today, who has done a lot of this work. What we do in the Nerve Centre is to use digital creativity largely as a way to engage people around collections, the past, and heritage more broadly. So that involves everything from filmmaking through the use of virtual reality to podcast creation, increasingly around AI, animation, those kind of digital tools as ways that we can engage new people in different ways. So what we wanted to do with this project was to take these collections, these archives back out to as many new and varied people as possible. And what better way to do that than to go into a primary school in South Armagh in Drummondtee and reintroduce them to Michael J. Murphy. We've been really helped across this whole project, as David said before, by a real range of partners and people, no less so than Kevin Murphy, who's with us here today. And you can see in that photograph, and standing at the back there, having a small class of primary school students enraptured by Michael J. Murphy and these folklore stories. And this whole project, we're not expecting these young people to come away experts and to know every single thing about Murphy or every single thing about his writing and his folklore, but to give them an introduction to that in some way and to help them produce something that means something to them is a really powerful thing to do. So, if I can just play this. You'll see a little sense of some of the work that was going on. So over the course of a number of weeks, we've went out to this school and engaged them around the process of looking at what folklore is, exploring what that means, both from an historical sense all the way through to contemporary sense. And I know I said before that a lot of our work is digital, but actually quite often the most powerful and beautiful work is paper-based work. These are young people writing their own folklore stories and designing what that could look like for themselves. So over the course of a number of weeks, we helped them to kind of understand that process. And then we brought in some specialists and facilitators to help them create their own version of a folklore story. And we did that through new and immersive media. So we've used 360 cameras to create an immersive virtual reality style film that was really from the minds of these young people themselves. And this is a little snapshot of what that process was like.
So today we're at Drummondtee Primary School here in South Armagh, and after weeks of development where we took the students, put the projects together, had them come up with ideas based on the writing and folklore and photographs of Michael J. Murphy, two of the kids come up with this great idea for a little film called The Shocking Truth. We shot it there about 4 weeks ago. Today we were getting the students to watch in full immersive 360 in their classroom along with their teachers and the principal. I think the kids loved it, seeing themselves. There's one thing seeing yourself on screen, but there's another thing seeing yourself full immersive 360. I think it is valuable for kids to learn about immersive 360, whether they go into media or whether they go into STEM subjects. I think it's really important they learn about the new technology now. Whether they go on to use it or not doesn't really matter, because it's just important to get yourself immersed in that new technology, see the possibilities.
I liked being on the VR and using the 360 camera.
I did enjoy making the film. I found using the VR headsets very cool. I enjoyed learning about Michael J. Murphy.
I found it really cool and I really liked it using the 360. I enjoyed learning about with Michael J. Murphy stories.
So over the course of a number of weeks, they're getting a sense of Murphy, of folklore generally, and producing something that speaks to them in a way that speaks to them as well. So that was a really interesting project. And then more recently, we have delivered a podcast program with Alan Meeban, who's in the room with us today as well. Again, looking at Michael J. Murphy's collection. And this is a bit more of a deep dive into that archive and into that work. So it was an open call program for anybody who wanted to join. And over the course of a number of weeks, that group have worked with Alan and ourselves. They have gone behind the scenes at PRONI to look at the materials that exist in here. And then they've gone on to produce a really high quality podcast or series of podcasts, which is Michael J. Murphy's story told through their perspective and what they've learned and what they've found in the archive. So a lot of this work is about, I suppose, a democratization in a way of getting people to use the archive in a way that they feel is most appropriate to them and which says the things that are most relevant to them as well. I'll let this little video play to give a better sense of that too.
In the workshop, we've been kind of bringing people together from a variety of different backgrounds, and we've been immersing them in the character of Michael J. Murphy. Who was this man? What were the different things he was collecting in terms of photographs, short stories, idiom? And then we've been interviewing some other people who know about the value of them and could explain to them why the fact that they're going to be with PRONI is really important. We're pulling that together into a series of short podcast episodes that will kind of look a bit about why we could all be a little bit like Michael J. Murphy today and do a bit more of archiving our history so that it's there for us today and it's also there in the future.
This is really new for me, actually. I've never really done a workshop particularly to do with podcasting, so I think that's what maybe piqued my interest initially. For me, I think it was also the chance to discover a new collection. I hadn't heard of Michael J. Murphy before.
I absolutely found this workshop to be valuable, just learning with some really cool people, but also to take on skills such as recording, networking, to be able to get guests to come in and transcribing different audios and people. It's just a really cool experience.
It's been really interesting and really fun, so yeah, I'd do it again.
So the output of this project has been a series of short podcasts. I'm going to just play a little snippet of one to give you a sense of what it sounds like.
Welcome to the Now We're Talking podcast, a dip into the legacy of folklorist, writer and broadcaster Michael J. Murphy. His personal archive is now held by the Public Record Office of Northern Ireland.
I'm Jen, and part of a group who have been exploring Michael J.'s archive with the help of Nerve Centre to create this. Listen along as we take a sneak peek at some of the hundreds and thousands of typewritten papers, diary entries and manuscripts that PRONI have been cataloguing. In this short series of podcast episodes, we've been speaking to people who knew him and understand.
That goes on for 35 minutes, as you can see. I won't play the whole thing today, nor will we talk about the hundreds and thousands of documents. But it gives you a sense of the quality of the outputs that we're trying to produce here. We want these podcasts to go on to be listened to by as many people as possible, again, further extending the reach of this project. I just thought it'd be useful to show a little bit of some of the reach of the project. This is just a piece of evaluation we've done around the podcast program in particular, and just some highlight quotes we pulled out. I suppose two things that stand out. What we're trying to do here is to give some digital skills to people that they might go on to be able to use those skills in the future in some way, but also introducing them to history and to heritage that they might not have experienced before. And you can see there from one of the quotes below, and the third one I think it is. So I've learned a lot, including who Murphy was, because I had no idea who this man was, and now I know way more than I know what to do with. So it's a really good way of being able to use media and creativity and technology as a way to break down some of the barriers to participation. Because we're not looking people to come away being fully fledged historians or fully fledged experts on who these people are, but if we can open the door and give them access in some way and let them do with that content what they will, that is often when you get the best results. Just a quick, I suppose, selling point. We are delivering a number of programs over the next few months. The first of those will be to rerun that podcast program, but looking at Sam Hannah-Bell's archive this time, because the quality and we found the reach of that first program around Murphy was so good that we want to do that again and mirror that for Sam Hannah-Bell. We're going to be delivering a youth filmmaking project, reimagining archive film that's been produced by Sam Hannah-Bell as well. And then our final programs will take place towards the end of June, called Across the Narrow Sea, which will explore that shared connection between both Sam Hannah-Bell and Michael J. Murphy. They did a lot of writing between each other, sharing ideas and sharing feedback. And we want to use that as the basis for a program to bring people together so that they'll write to each other before they meet. And then they'll come together over the course of a residential weekend to produce new work and to look at the lives and legacies of both of these people as well. Just a quick, if anybody wants to, you can scan that QR code, it'll take you to the website. But if you search for the Now We're Talking project on the Nerve Centre's website, you'll see all of this content and be able to engage with it in much more detail. So I just want to say a thank you to PRONI, as always, fantastic partners, to the wider group who are involved in the Now We're Talking project, the BBC, to Northern Ireland Screen Digital Film Archive, and to a whole host of independents who are helping to make sure that this project is delivered really worthwhile. So thank you very much, and please check out for more information. And if you're interested or know anybody who would be interested in taking part in those programs, there'll be more information available on the website soon. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Niall. I hope that's given you an insight into different aspects of what PRONI does, from receiving new deposits, meeting depositors, going out to look at collections in different locations, from organisations to charities to individuals to businesses, and then also how archives are used and how we can find out more about ourselves, the community that we live in now, and also think about how that can inform the future as well. So, certainly from my perspective, I've really enjoyed the opportunity to hear all of the contributions from our partners and also from my PRONI colleagues in terms of the private records team. That concludes the first part of our Depositors event. And I know everybody's probably looking forward to having lunch very soon. Did you bring some virtual reality headsets? Niall has brought along some virtual reality headsets, or that's what my notes are telling me. So if anyone wants to look at the shocking truth, film in all its 360-degree glory, please do come and speak to Niall afterwards, and you'll get the opportunity to experience that. I do hope that some of you will be able to stay on and join us in the behind-the-scenes tour of PRONI. That will start at approximately 2:00. And if anyone wants to go on the tour, please put away your coats, jacket and bags first. There are lockers directly opposite our reception desk, and staff will be able to help you with that. But as I said earlier, I'd really encourage you if you've not been on a behind-the-scenes tour of PRONI that you do go on the tour. And then there's one last thing that I have to ask everybody to do. Before you can get your lunch, you have to do this one final thing. And that's to go out into the foyer and be a part of our annual Depositors Day photograph.